Hi, and welcome back to my playthrough of Bora Bora. This is now the third episode. Hopefully you have watched my rule introduction and maybe also my video about the first turn of the game. I think from now on, as I saw that one turn is not that long, I decided really to go for 2 turns in a video. I think this should be okay because I will also reduce my explanation a little bit. So I think for you this should be fine as well. So let's say the series itself will not be that long. Okay, that's to that. Of course, there's not an episode where I don't do any little mistake. In this case, this was not really let's say an error with the rules or something like that. It was more or less a strategic error because I went for this task tile here because I thought this would mean you have two priests in the temple. Of course, that is nonsense. There is a completely different task tile, or the icon for the temple is this one here, and we fulfilled that already in turn 1. No, this task tile instead means that you have to have 2 blue god cards in your hand. Okay, as you can see right now, these are the 2 cards we currently have, so a red god and a green god. So I think we might have a problem to complete this task tile in this round, but that's not a problem because in each round you only have to complete 1 task tile, not more and not less. So green also being the starting player in this round, so I think let's go over to my dice board and roll some action dice. Let's see. Okay, this time, wow, that's a huge roll for the red player. But to be honest, I'm not so sure if that is really good for him, because still green being the first player. But I think I have a look at those dice and then I decide what we're going to do. So because green has this task tile in play, which says you have to have one of your HUD on each of these islands, I think he will definitely go for an expand action, and therefore he will use his 5 die here, and he decides to go for that HUD over there, so he puts his green HUD on this building slot here. Next he can play his red god, and of course he needs to pay this offering, and now he gains 5 victory points for the fish that is adjacent to the newly built hut here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, that's right. Additionally to the amount of points, he gains this sand token because he built the hut on the appropriate space over there. And this concludes the turn of, or the first die for the green player. And yeah, let's see what the red player is going to do about with his 3 6s. Wow, this was really a devilish roll, I have to admit. I always need reminds me of this Iron Maiden song. Okay, nevertheless, let's see what red will do about that. With his first 6, he will go for this helper action because he really needs to gain some more options in his turn here, because with 3 6s it's very difficult to place a die on the action tiles you want to have them. So let's use that 6, and that's a pretty good amount for doing some helper actions. First of all, he will use 2 numbers here to gain the blue god card from the reserve. With a blue god, he would be allowed to place a higher or the equal die on an action tile where already a die or another die is already laying down. So this is very good for him. I think with a second action, this only costs him 1 point from the die. He will activate the woman here and therefore gains 3 of these shells. So he actually can then buy some of the jewelry in a later stage of the game. With another 2 points, he gains himself a wood. We place that here. And with the last die point, he moves just 1 point on the victory track. Green is using his 2 die here to go for a woman or man action, basically, to gain a woman tile from the offering. And I think he will take this tile over here, which he can place now on his player board over there. So this is now a man tile. The man tile can be activated in a helper phase for getting some tattoos, and this is not so bad because it brings you 3 points further on the status track, basically. And on the right side is something that you can activate in phase B later on. And this tile here, for example, grants you, you can basically take woman tile from the offering that is at the maximum at the number 3 on the offering track here. Red will go for a temple action to place a priest in the temple, which he will definitely do, so he can now claim his fire bonus. And for his first bonus he will go for a god card, and he will use the yellow god here. And with the second bonus he advances 1 step on the status track. For his third die, green goes for a build action, so he can now place a building on his ceremony spaces. So in this case we just take the highest building we have available, because he rolled a 6, or he used a 6 for that, so we go for the highest number here. And now we can place that on 2 existing adjacent resources here. And to be honest, I'm not so sure. Maybe we go for those 2. So these resources are being removed back to the reserve, and now for once he gains victory points, and this is depending on the stage of the game. As we are still in round 2, he now gains 10 victory points for this building, which will bring him all the way up here. Additionally, he is allowed to also gain this fire bonus. So again, for his first bonus he's also going for this blue god card here from the offering. And with the second bonus he also advances on the status track over here. Red will also go for this man woman tile over here. Of course he cannot do that, so he has to play his blue god card and has to pay an offering. Just for a reminder, or maybe I have not mentioned it already, you can also use your god tile. So this god tile is, as I mentioned, some kind of a wild card, so you can place this also as a god card here. And the good thing about that is you don't have to pay an offering. So this could really be something like a last resort if you don't know what to do, and then the god tile really might come in handy. Of course he used a 6 die, but I think he will go for this woman tile over here, because this would allow him in the next phase of the game, in phase B, to build a building that has a value up to 3. So I think he will take that woman here, which he places also on his player board in the top position, so she has not been activated yet. And this was already phase A of this round, so let's get over to the green player, who will now start phase B. Green has now an advantage because he has a man tile and a woman tile and his village. And you can activate from each man or woman one of a kind, basically. So that's very good for him. So I think for the woman tile he will just activate the woman that he has. So, and this grants him 2 additional victory points. That's 1 and 2. Theoretically he could now activate this man tile over here. The problem is there is no free spot in his village, so he cannot place this woman, or could not place this woman on his player board, so he has to skip that phase now. Red has 2 woman tiles, but they are of different kinds, so he has now to decide whether to activate one more time this gal over here to gain an offering, or this new drawn gal over there. And of course this brings a lot of victory points, so he will activate now this type here, so he would now be allowed to build a building that has a value of 3, and I think he will go for the maximum value, of course. So let's take that building over here, so just use this one here. And also, because we are still in basically level 2 or at round 2, he gains also 10 victory points for building that hut, which brings him all the way up here to 20 victory points. He really needed that, but he also can claim his fire bonus, of course. And for his fire bonus, he will just go for an offering because you really need that later on in phase C. So these were all the phases, or both turns in phase B, so he cannot activate anything again or additionally. So let's resolve phase C. Start with the starters track, and green is still being the leading player because he's on top of that, but both players would gain 1 victory point. So first we will put that back to 0 and then give both players 1 victory point. That's 1 and 1. And yeah, this more or less concludes then phase 1 in phase C. Wow, that's pretty tough. Now let's get over to the temple. In respect to victory points, they are also even, and we are still in round 2, so both gain 1 victory point for each priest in the temple. They have both 1 priest there, so that's not really a problem. But now we have to resolve the majority. They have both 1 priest, but red being on the higher position here, so that means he can claim the god tile in this round. Of course, we will place that god tile and the appropriate slot on the red player's board. So red will definitely go for a jewelry, so he pays 2 of these shells and grabs this nice little, it's a bracelet I guess, over here. Placed it on his player board, and red really needs those, so he pays 1 shell as well, and he's only allowed to buy exactly one jewelry from the offering here. So let's place that also to his player board, and the rest of the jewelry will be discarded instantly. Last but not least, we have to resolve or have to complete 1 task tile right now. Green cannot do that at this point in time, so he doesn't have any or not enough blue cards, and there is no yellow god available for him. He does not have 4 jewelry, and he's not expanded to all the 5 islands of Bora Bora. So he now will decide to, I think, discard this tile here, and this is not placed on this completed tile, it's just been removed from the game. And red once more has to use the yellow god, so he will play the yellow god and together with an offering, and therefore he can fulfill now this task tile over here because he has 1 of these matching jewelry in hand, and the yellow god allows him to reduce the difficulty or the demand for a task tile. So he completed that one, so we place that face down here as well, and this will bring him at least 4 victory points. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's because he used the yellow god. But that's better than nothing. And now let's see which task tiles we will draw for the players. Green still being the first player. I think this time he will go for this tile here, and this says you have to have 2 green god cards on your hand, and the good thing is he already has 1. So let's place that here. I think red will go for this jewelry task tile once more, and we place that here. And this now completes the turn 2 of the Bora Bora. I will do now some cleanup. I will refill the market, the offerings, the task tiles, and so on, and then I'll be back for turn 3. So I restocked everything, and there are the new 4 task tiles. So this means you have to have 4 man tiles on your player board. This says, I think it speaks for itself. You have to have 2 yellow god cards in your hand, 3 stone that are not in use, so they have to play beside your game board or on your ceremony hut. That's both legal, and this is you have to have 4 different god cards on your hand. So let's roll the action die, and again for red, that's interesting roll. So 2 2s and 6, and this is a little bit more adjusted or balanced, I would say. So green still being the first player, so let's start with his turn. So green needs space, so he needs to clean up some huts. Of course, he could also do that within a helper action, but I think he really needs to expand a little bit. So he will place his one die on the expand action tile, and therefore he places his green hut to this island here. So you see there's only one die needed, and now he gains one offering. Just place that beside his player board, and this was already the first action for the green player. Okay, I think, yeah, red will go for this helper action, and he will use his 2 die over there, and he's using his 2 points on the die to move this hut down here to the reserve space. So this is a legal action from the helper action, but it costs him 2 of his die numbers, so this is now already done, but he has now a free space over there to place a worker in the maybe next action die. With his second action, green goes for another temple action, so he can place now the priest on the field of the 6 and will move the other priest down the line, and of course he would be allowed to gain his fire bonus. For the first bonus he will go for this yellow god, he really needs that, and for his second bonus I think he would just take a shell to have some cash basically. So red will instantly use his 2 die here and perform a man or woman action, and I think he will go for this man tile over here, which he will play then here on his new free spot over there, and this is pretty good. He can maybe use now 2 of his or 2 actions in phase B, because now he has man and women tiles on his player board. Now it's a pretty tough situation for the green player, because he cannot really place anything that's completely making sense. So let me show you maybe the action tiles. So you see they're all pretty low, so he has this 4 die now to play. He could go for the building action, but there is not the appropriate slots available on his player board. He could go for a blue god, of course, but he needs that to complete a task tile later on, so that's also not a good idea. One thing that I didn't mention here, and this would be the fishing action, which is here, and you can always place some die in that field, and it doesn't matter which die you put there, you always get 2 victory points for that. Though that's basically a chance when you really don't have something else to do, then this might be the way to go. But I think in this time we are not so bad, so I think he will go again for a temple action. Let's place that die here, so this is lower than the 6, but that's not a problem. And let's place another god in the temple. Of course this will grant him another fire bonus instantly. His first bonus will be another yellow god card, and the second bonus will be an advance on the status track over here. Now red has the same problem. He cannot place his 6 die, so he has to go for this fishing action over here, so at least he gains some victory points. 1 and 2. And I already learned about something in Bora Bora. Always place your high die as soon as possible. Okay, some not really a strategic tip, but I think from what I learned up to now, I think this could make sense. Okay, these were all the action dice for both players. Now let's get over to phase B of this round. So for first B, he will now activate this man tile here, so this type, and this can get him this woman tile over here, so this can be placed on his free slot over there. And now he could activate another woman tile, and I think he will instantly activate this tile here. Yeah, that's allowed. So this means he can advance or expand on a landway with a value of 2, and that's not really a problem, because here it's a value 1, so he can play his hut over here, and this will grant him another offering. And let's quickly place that here. But now green has activated both his worker tiles, and now it's over to the red player. Red will also play it tricky maybe. For once he will activate this man type over there, and he will go for a stone, and we will place that on his player board over here. And I think he has to activate this over there, because he could also go for this offering here, but the problem is right now he cannot really use that. So let's take the victory point, so let's activate her, and this means we can use now a building up to level 3, so 3 is already gone, so we take the next higher one, which would be the 2, and we place that on this field over there. And for his first fire bonus he will go for an offering, and I think for the second bonus he will advance on the status track. And yeah, red is the starting player once more. Not too bad. I think this was really a good decision for him to go. So this was phase B of the game. Now let's resolve phase C and yeah, start with the status track. First, both gain 1 victory point each. So that's 1 and 2. And second, the player 1 marker moves over to this player board over here. And next we will have to resolve the temple. So red is getting 2 victory points. Remember, we are now in round 3 of the game. So for red that's 2 victory points, and I just noticed I totally forgot to give him his 7 victory points for building the hut. He only gains 7 victory points because we are already in round 3, so let's give him not that points now. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, so he's in the lead. And green gains 6 victory points because he has 3 priests in the temple, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, coming closer. And he has the majority in the temple, so he can also claim the god tile, and this is actually not too bad for him. And now let's resolve the step 3 in this phase. So red could now go for jewelry, but I think he does not, because he needs those for a later task tile, and he's considering to saving some of his shells, so I think he will pass. But green definitely will pay 1 shell here to go for, I think, yeah, this one. That's the only thing that he could afford. And now he's up to 3 jewelry already, and yeah, let's clean up the remains of the jewelry. 1, 2 and 3, they are gone. And let's resolve the 4th step in this phase, and this is the task tiles. Once more, he cannot, or this is for red, it's the first time, he cannot claim a task tile or cannot complete it, so I think he will discard this one over here, so this is just removed from the game. And green, I think he will go for this task tile, so he only has 1 god card, a blue god card, but that's not a problem, so he will spend one of his offerings and the yellow god card over here. So he has completed now this task tile with a reduced value, so at least he gains 4 victory points for that. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's really a close call. And now red can decide first which task tile to draw, and I think this could be a pretty easy one. So I think he will go for this task tile over here. So let's put that on this player board. Oops. Okay, let's see what the green player might draw. I think he will go for this one because he already has 3 different god cards on his hand. So let's go for this task tile here. And I think this could really be something that he might be able to complete in the next round. Okay, this was round 3 of the game. I think I will stop for now. Last thing I will do, I will restock anything in respect to the task tiles, in respect to the woman and man tiles, and then I think I will finish that and then give you the opportunity to still send me some tips or recommendations on how to advance in this game. You already saw I'm not really a master, but I think you might be really a great help for me. So these are the new task tiles. So this means you have to have 3 wood. This means you have to have activated 5 any of your woman or man tiles on your player board. This means you have to have 3 different man tiles on your player board. And this says you have to have 3 different jewelry in your possession. This is a quick look at the offering for the man or woman tiles, so pretty different stuff available. Of course, these two are the same. Here are some different in respect to woman tiles. So maybe you got an idea what to go for in the next turn. This concludes my session of Bora Bora today. I hope you still enjoyed it. Hope to see you soon in my next video. I think I will keep going on with doing 2 rounds in a video. I think then the last round will then be only 1 turn, but then we will also do the final scoring, which might also take some time. Okay, until then, hope to see you soon, and bye bye.